So yeah, just skipping back around the front. Adding a little bit more of this directional skin. Yeah, this is a pass that I generally like to spend a bit more time on, but and I suggest you do it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, you really can get lost in it for hours and hours. Just trying to add some soft direction inside the eye. I'll probably have to build something up in there at some point, but just getting some unusual stretching and so forth that I want to clean up. Just grabbing the crow's feet brush. It's one of my personal favorites from the default menu. It's in the organic brush palette. It's got a nice strong center point with a really good fall off. I mean, it was obviously designed for painting crow's feet and wrinkles, but I find a million and one uses for it. Like adding spots like this. Or not. That's an annoying glitch you might experience in Mari sometimes, where you're painting on the paint buffer and you go to tumble and hence, yeah, and auto bake, and sometimes you'll get one or two just straight lines that will appear on your paint buffer just as you go to bake down, which are a pain. So yeah, I usually just hit undo once or twice and then rebake it. I'm just fitting some lips. Great thing with the warp tool is being able to add and well, you can remove, but you can if you remove the amount of points on the lattice, you'll obviously lose their their control. So it'll spring back to how it would be if they were never there. But yeah, it's great to be able to start with 6 points and then, or yeah, and just go up and up and up until you find everything finds its right place. Then you can recast the lattice over and over it again as long as it's on your paint buffer until you bake it down. Yeah, it's just so much easier if you've ever tried to do this in Photoshop and UVs. I just find it quite painful, and being able to see when you've got it right here. I mean, the worst thing you're going to do is if you angle it a bit wrong, you might get some smearing down the corners of the mouth. but generally it's yeah, it's endlessly faster. So here I've just created a channel called line mask, and I've filled it with white. The reason for this is I'm going to apply it. I'm going to create a shader called Displace, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm using it. It's masking my horn texture and using my horn mask over my skin displacement, and then on top of that, as you can see, there's the line disc plugged in, and that's set to multiply. So I want my neutral to be white, and it just means that when I'm painting lines, I can use my whole range of grays, which incidentally I programmed my pie wheel selector thing, which you can do by going into your shelf, and if you go to your menu shelf and you save the colors, all your grays into there and name them 1 through 8. When you bring up your pie selector, as you'll see me doing quite often, they'll be loaded into that, and you can put anything in there. You can put any brushes you like to use a lot. I just found that it made sense to have all my my grays in there, just so I can always pull up the correct one without having to dig through my color palette. Yeah, so that's just changing the size of my tip quite regularly, just so things don't get too uniform. It's also why I move around a lot. It's funny, it's kind of like the line pass kind of feels like you're doing a pencil sketch without a lighting direction. Just adding fine wrinkles. I mean, most of these are going to be dialed right back, and you should only see them in certain light. Again, this is a pass that I could spend days on quite happily when time's permitting. It's so yeah, I'm just blending that back in the shader, just because I don't want it to be carved into his face. Just gentle lines, making sure to keep all my lines broken up. Nothing too constant. So what I'm doing here is I'm baking out my displacement shader. So this is going to put my horn displacement, my skin displacement, and my line displacement. It's going to yeah, bake it all down into one map that I can plug in Um, Depending on how you do things, you could export everything and do it all in the shader, obviously. But for the point of this class, it seemed to make sense to output everything as one map. And that's the result. Through the magic of editing, you didn't have to watch me wait for the render. So yeah, I'm just checking out, what's working, what's too intense, what could be revisited. And it definitely looks like the. So yeah, that was me chucking out the baked together texture because I'm gonna have to bake it every time I output it, which seems like a bit of a hassle, but when you think that if I was doing this in Photoshop, I'd have to collapse down 8 PSDs and output them. It's really a lot easier. Just constantly checking. So yeah, just to reiterate, the poly count of my model has absolutely nothing to do with the resolution that I'm painting at. Basically, you can have the model any size you want. Obviously, you're only going to be able to see as much of the form as you have in the model that you bring in, but it's just a block that I think of it as a block that you're pinning your all your maps to. So all the weight is in the resolution of the maps. Just going back to the skin displacement and filling in that bland patch on the ocular ridge there, the cheekbone. So yeah, the lines pass is one of the few things that I build up in the shader. I mean, you can do anything you want. It's just just my own practices. Just bringing a few more necklines around. There's yeah, Scott's given me a lot of forms there to work with, so it's they just kind of paint themselves. Trying to connect those two islands of detail there. Just seemed a bit off. I kind of like there's a textural change running up into the skin that grows over the horn, but it makes sense to have directional lines on anywhere that would have movement, like the eyebrows. Yeah, the eyes are definitely, the eye bags are definitely something I'd like to spend a lot more time on. This is it's a bit rough, but they're yeah, they're incredibly interesting things. I think the render scene I'm testing in, you can hardly see them because they're mostly in shadow. Yeah, just kind of implying direction, but yeah, something cleaner would be preferable. Yeah, just don't like that those lines at the corner of the lips there. They they go against everything. So yeah, just painting them out with white. Starting to get there. Yeah, so basically I do grey renders until I'm happy with the displacement and that it's standing up by itself before I introduce colour. If any of you have ever done face casts, you'll kind of understand why there's so much detail to try and get into the skin before you go distracting your eyes with colour. Yeah, if you've ever done a face cast, they can be quite eerie, and I've had a few sitting around, and you kind of expect them to, open their eyes and say something, and that's kind of the feeling that I want before I move on to colour. Yeah, ideally, just to have that life there. Just changing my lighting to again just see more of the forms in the model. Just faking some eyelids as he doesn't actually have any. Evil doesn't sleep. softly put some direction in there. Having another go at adding those little dots around the eye that I failed at last time. I'm just doing this to try and give the eyelid a bit of a ridge, an edge between the wet, soft area and the fattier skin beneath. Yeah, just looking at that ridge along the eye. How broken up it is. It's quite different to the goat's eye, but yeah, as we're kind of drawing on a range of reference for this. Just adding some irregularity to the area. Just erasing back some of those areas I went a bit crazy on earlier. Breaking up up some of the lines. Yeah, adding some lines to complement the fine displacement underneath it and the general direction of that muzzle. Is that glitch that I hope gets sorted out at some point in the near future. And I'm just going to quickly roughen some crow's feet. Kind of an unusual eye shape to put crow's feet on, because the shape isn't terribly human. Just adding some just blemish spots here to help break up the symmetry and just general interest. Not even really don't even intend on making a feature of them, just try and make the skin a bit more original. Still just missing that little bit of direction there. Right, so I probably should be moving on from the displacement. Again, it's something I can revisit if I need to. This is skin displacement. What I'm doing now is plugging my horn mask into my channel mask, as you can see here. And what I'm attempting to achieve is just getting a bit of an edge on the skin to show the skin passing over the horn. So I'm brushing back the skin displacement with a soft. I'm just duplicating there and backing it up in case I go off course, or if I want to move the mask at some point. But yeah, I'm just using a soft brush and blending that displacement back, hoping that this will achieve a look of the skin thinning. I'd expect it to have less detail as it gets thinner and thinner as it's stretched over the horn. Here I'm using white and just gently on a smaller scale doing the same thing and just lifting up that edge. Just wanting yeah, I'm just using it to lift up the edge. So I'll displace away from the horn a bit, and it should look like a layered effect. Doing one kind of general soft bass, and then I'll go in and do a slightly more defined edge, just to kind of make the skin look like it's gathering as it comes to the join. You don't need to see me do the other side. So yeah, I'm just pulling up certain areas just so it just so the skin doesn't have a constant thickness all the way around. I just want I want it to look like it has a constant thickness up to the very edge, and that's where it's a bit ratty. Just like certain areas might be picking up. Just noticed one of the seams in the base texture that I promised to get rid of at some point. So yeah, just clone tooling that out. Just trying to keep it varied and organic. Cool, looks pretty good, and that's the effect I got, which I'm pretty happy with. I can see the yeah, the skin peeling back. I think once the colors played into that, it'll should really read.